This conference will now be recorded.
All right, folks, so good morning. I appreciate you all being here today. And again, we discussed as far as the research paper will be due on May 17th. So the Monday prior, today's Monday, yeah, the Monday prior to your final exam, which will be on the 19th, which will be available to you all. And it'll be available on the 19th throughout the whole day, from early in the morning till 5 to midnight. Okay, so know that there. You'll have the entire day, so you don't have to start it right at 9:30 in the morning. No, I'm providing it to you from early in the morning till 5 to midnight there. It'll have to be due and turned in. All right. But as far as the paper is concerned, like I said, I'll post in coursework there sometime tomorrow. You'll have that available. But I said to you that the topic that you can choose for your paper is diverse from this semester. So anything that would be a topic that we could take from the chapters that we've reviewed and studied this semester, that's what I'm allowing you to produce your research paper on. And so I hope that'll be very interesting for you. And I'm making it this very broad topic base that you can choose from, so that you can choose something that you find fascinating and would enjoy doing research on. As far as the lab today, so you'll see here exercise 21. We're only doing part of the exercise 21 today. And what you're going to be doing is, and again, purposely, I'm making this lab assignment not as detailed or not as in-depth and time-consuming, because I want you to really focus on your research now and producing this paper. So yes, there's going to be some information and some work that you'll have to do, but it's not going to be as time-consuming as it has been over the semester. So you'll see here that in exercise 21, plant and animal organization, we're doing part of it here as far as in the introduction, there's terms, and I'm having you define these terms for me, please. You'll draw and label figures 21 1 and -2. You'll draw and label figure 21-3 and 4, as far as in 21.1, external structure of the flowering plant. And other than that, folks, that's all that I'm requiring of you today as far as this assignment that's due a week from today. Okay, so this assignment will be due 1 week from today, and it shouldn't take too long. And like I said, I'm purposely allowing this and doing this so that you'll be able to really spend quite a bit of time on your research paper. Okay, very good. So that's it as far as lab work is concerned, and that's posted in the coursework for today and labeled for today's date as far as lab April 21st. Okay, so that's that. And now let's go into our PowerPoint, folks, and we are going to, we have quite a few slides to cover, so we're going to be focusing on kind of moving through this and such. And again, I've provided this complete PowerPoint, chapter 33. It's posted in documents and resources and such, right below part 1 that you had, excuse me, for the first 31 slides of this PowerPoint for chapter 33. All right, folks, so I want to take us back a moment here and just look at as far as we discussed and looked at. And so I'm going to come to slide number 20, which I really think is a great slide for this chapter as far as the table is concerned. And we're going to be looking at the different tissues, right? So just as the study of tissues is called histology. So just as in for the human body, we talked about different tissues as far as epithelial tissue, as far as connective tissue, as far as muscular tissue. All right, these different types of tissues. Well, here in plants, we're looking at as far as ground tissue, vascular tissue, and dermal tissue. And so, oh, I need to turn this down, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, so, and you'll see here as far as we discussed the ground tissue and such, now today we're going to be finishing up as far as different tissues, as far as vascular and dermal tissues and such. Okay, so let's move on then into the slide that we are looking at as far as vascular tissues are concerned. And so we've already discussed and talked about this as far as xylem and phloem. Now, why did I put the xylem in blue? Because we talked about that there's water transport. So we're moving water and minerals from the root system, right, up into the plant body. And the phloem is going to have, and really that xylem, it's one-way flow, right, going from the root system and going superiorward to the plant body and such. As far as phloem is concerned, phloem, we hear the sound of an F, so we think food, so we think transport of food, so we think what's being produced as a result of photosynthesis by the leaves. So we're talking about the nutrients and such that are going to be moving. And really phloem, this movement is going to be going in both directions. Really, it can be not just in one direction, but throughout the plant, there's going to be movement of these nutrients and such, okay? And organized into bundles of interconnected cells. This is what's going to allow for the movement of these water and phloem. And know that in phloem, there is water that's present, okay? So I want you to, I don't know that, I'm not sure that I really made that clear to you all, but know that water is also present in order to allow for this movement present within the vessels for both of these vascular type of tissues. So again, in xylem, water and minerals from the soil upward, right? And you'll see here that they're the conducting cells that are present, tracheids and vessel members, right? These are the types of cells that are allowing for this movement. You'll see here it contains parenchymal cells. Now the parenchyma are what? The ground tissue, okay? So that helps to move the minerals and such and move the water. And know that these cells that make up the xylem and such, they're going to be more of a line of dead cells, okay? Whereas in the phloem, we're having more living tissue that's going to represent the cells that comprise those vessels. All right, and let's take a look here. So the tracheids, the vessel elements, right? These are what create the tubes through which the water and the minerals will be moving through. You'll see here predictable perforation patterns in the end walls of a vessel members suggest that the process is under genetic control. And so realize that, you know, there is as a result of genetics, there is this really this pattern of development present within the cells and the vessels that make up the tubes through which water is transported from the roots to the plant body. And here you're seeing as far as these, an image of the structures. Okay, you're seeing a little bit more of a detailed image there. Now the phloem, okay, so we're moving the sugars. In particular, you're thinking of sucrose and such as a result of photosynthesis. You're thinking of other solutes and such food products. These are being transported via the phloem, right? And again, it's moving in both directions, right, throughout the plant. Whereas again, xylem, it's only moving from inferior to superiorward to the plant body. The conducting cells, these sieve tube elements, right, forming this tube, forming this vessel upon which then, through which the food and the nutrients will be passed, and the minerals and not the minerals are the xylem and the water, but through which the food, the nutrients will be spread throughout the plant. And again, know that the phloem, again, it's moving in both directions throughout the plant. Okay. There's also these parenchyma cells, right? These companion cells that help move the sugars in and out of these major sieve tube elements, these conducting cells that are present in moving the nutrients. Again, let me just show you as far as, so you're seeing here the term parenchyma, and you're thinking of the ground tissue, okay? So look at here as far as the different types of ground tissue that are present. So we have parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, right? And it's the parenchyma involved in photosynthesis, respiration, storage, and secretion. So wouldn't this make sense, right? That we're moving then these different food and nutrient elements as a result of these specific type of tissue and cells. All right. And you'll see here as far as the different structures that are present and such. And again, these tubes that are moving nutrients. Then the dermal tissues, right? So we're thinking of then these dermal tissues. So we looked at then the different types of tissues as far as the ground tissue, as far as the vascular, and now the dermal tissue. So the primary plant body, covered by an epidermis. Just as for the human body, we can say analogous to that we have on our external layer of the skin is considered the epidermis, right? Covering the entire body. So the epidermis for the plant, right, secretes a protective waterproof layer. It's called the cuticle. Okay, this waxy type substance and such that's on the outer portion, outer region of the plant. You'll also have the stomata, and we've talked about the stomata in previous chapter, as far as pair of crescent-shaped shells, these guard cells that will allow for an opening and closing of these pore-like openings, these stomata, and allowing for the movement of, right, we're taking in, the plant is taking in CO2, water vapor, oxygen is being released through those very pore-like openings. And so, and recall also that on the underside of leaves and such, this is where the stomata would be located. And there's a control that takes place. And because what happens is that they're not just always open. They're open and closed depending upon what the plant is going to be doing as far as photosynthesis is concerned, and also as far as making sure that the plant is not losing too much water vapor, right? So that's important. So there needs to be this control that takes place as far as the opening and when the stomata will be open or closed. You'll see here mechanisms that regulate the opening and closing of stomata, essential to maintaining a balance between the intake of CO2 and the loss of water vapor. And that's what I was just really, that's important for you to understand and know. You'll see here also, right, as far as epidermal specialization. So single-celled or multicellular outgrowths called trichomes, right, give the stems and leaves the hairy appearance and such. Quite interesting. You've seen this on plants and on leaves and such, and I'm sure you kind of wondered, well, what's going on with that? So they can exude sugars that attract insect pollinators, and trichomes of some stinging nettles inject toxins into the skins of predators that would be involved in eating the plant and such. So quite interesting, right, as a defensive mechanism. These root hairs, right, so know this also, another type of trichome here would be a root hair, which would be involved in the root system, and they help to and allow for absorption of water and minerals from the soil, so they contribute to that as far as that function is concerned. So here you're seeing here as far as examples of the trichome is concerned to the right. Here we have examples of, here's the root and then the root hairs, which just further facilitate the absorption of water and minerals and such nutrients from the soil. And then here we have the guard cells and the stomata being open or closing, right? This I thought was very cool as far as, so if anybody's a Star Wars fan, right? So the Yoda gene represented as such because it has in the description describing you know, what Yoda looked like as far as kind of hairy and short and small in stature and such. Well, so this is how they think as far as the overall appearance of this Yoda gene as far as what it can control and such. So as such, it appears to control the overall number and placement of the stomata. And let me give for you I'm not doing it justice as far as describing the Yoda gene. Let me give you this here as far as what it can control, and that's why they call it the Yoda gene. Sorry, folks, I had that up earlier. And yeah. Or actually, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's go to our text. Sorry, because it says it right in the text there, and it's really okay. We got that there. Let's go to my dashboard. I apologize, folks. I had this keyed up and then queued up. It'll just take a moment. And we're in 33.2. Just take me a moment here. I'll bring this up. Here we go. Okay, so let's see here. So plants often die early in development or are stunted and appear fuzzy. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, so with their vital role in regulating gas exchange, the stomata, right, allowing for again CO2 to enter, water vapor, and oxygen to leave the cell of the plant. You'll see here, so stomata have captured the interest of geneticists, probing the molecular and underpinnings of plant development. Working with a thale cress, researchers have identified an enzyme, it's the enzyme, encoded by the gene YODA, that appears to exert overall control over where and how many stomata form. In mutant plants with a defective enzyme, the epidermis is blanketed with stomata packed side by side, right? The plants often die early in development or are stunted and appear fuzzy, hence the enzyme's name, YODA. Okay, so as a result of that's why they're calling it the YODA gene there. And again, it's regarding this enzyme being present and such. Recalling the short, hairy Star Wars character. So you'll see here as far as that's the origin of that term for the YODA gene. All right, and so you'll see here also, as far as many plants can also modify their stomata in response to changing levels of CO2 in the environment. Making sense there, right? So again, because of the fact that we're taking in the CO2 in order to allow for respiration to occur and such. So the root system. So we're first going to look at the root systems and then the shoots and talk about the leaves and the stems and such. But looking at the root systems here, so absorbing enough water and dissolved minerals to sustain plant growth and maintenance requires a large root surface. And isn't that true? Absolutely. And that's why I just kind of put it more in bold there and in red for you to just understand that. But we get that already. We understand that. And so recall also in previous chapters, we talked about how in correlation with fungi, and plant root systems there, we can expand and increase the surface area for the absorption of water, for the bringing of minerals and such into the plant and allowing for it to have a greater chance for survival. Okay. Roots also store nutrients produced in photosynthesis, right? So there are then phloem that will reach into the roots and such. So know that there, right? And again, like I said to you before, that phloem, we're having movement of nutrients and such in both directions, whereas in xylem, it's only going from the roots and superiorward and upward into the plant body. As the root system grows downward and out, it also anchors the above ground parts. Makes sense, does it not? Right? How many of you have ever, I've been on the ground, pulling out weeds and such. And as such, you can say, depending upon the structure and such, man, those roots are very anchored into the ground in comparison to other plants and such. But that's what's going on as far as the roots are anchoring and really allowing for providing a stability for the plants. Taproot and fibrous root systems, okay? So remember, eudicots are dicots, right, in comparison to monocots. Most eudicots have a taproot system, single main root, and then lateral roots, okay? So let's look here for a moment. So here we have that taproot system. So there's this main root, and then these lateral roots coming off of that there as far as the eudicots are concerned. Let's go back up. In grasses and many other monocots, you'll see here that there is these adventitious roots that will become this fibrous root system, right? Several main roots spread out laterally from the base of the stem. So you'll see right there, as far as the fibrous root system, much different than that taproot system, right? That taproot, again, it's got this one primary main root and then the lateral roots. The fibrous root system really spreads throughout the substrate, okay? You'll see here, yeah, as far as fibrous roots, important ecologically, because what do they provide? So take a look at this for a moment. What do you think this kind of root system can do for the substrate, for the soil that it's present within? Can it really help to stabilize it? Without a doubt, folks, right? So understand that, right? Dense root networks, these fibrous root systems for monocots, for these different grasses and such, and this is why we grow grasses along different areas where there have been excavations and such, because it'll help to hold the topsoil in place and prevent erosion. So really, this fibrous root system of these monocots really vital for ecologically. And again, taproot, fibrous root systems. So you'll see here the adventitious roots and their branches are all about the same length and diameter. And that's what we were seeing here as far as for these monocots, for the grasses and such. Prop roots, storage roots, these are also buttress roots. So prop roots of a corn plant, buttress roots, rainforest trees, storage roots for, you'll see here as far as lateral root that stockpile nutrients and can sustain new shoot roots parts there. We'll take a look at these and just see examples of. Pretty cool looking, right, folks? Pretty interesting, the diversity present within root systems. So primary root growth, right? Whenever you hear primary, there's got to be secondary also. So primary root, beginning root growth, right, begins when an embryonic root emerges from a germinating seed. Okay, and you'll see here that the root apical meristem, this area where there's division of cells, cellular division taking place, ends in a dome-shaped cell mass called the root cap. Okay, which protects the meristem as the root elongates through the soil. Okay, so these roots, the roots need to expand and to grow, and so they do that at the root cap where they have these mitotic division is taking place. Okay, you'll see here certain cells in the root cap respond to gravity, and interesting, folks. So think about this for a moment, because understand that. So why do roots not only why don't they just go laterally? But no, they go laterally, but they go deep within and they go downward. So that certain cells within the root cap, right, where these rapidly dividing mitotic cells, mitotic division taking place, guides the root tip going downward into the soil. Okay, and again, what is this doing? It's providing a very strong foundation for the plant and really providing that that ability to protect the topsoil, prevent erosion and such. Really quite important. You'll see here zones of primary growth. So I put this here for you. So you're seeing here as far as inside the root cap, right, where cellular division, mitotic division is taking place, we have what's called the quiescent center, right? Divides very slowly. There is 3 zones to it there: cellular division, elongation, and maturation. And I just put zone of DEM, right? Division, elongation, maturation. And you see that right in through in here as far as division, elongation, and maturation. So as we're going distally away from the root cap here, where all that cell division is taking place, these are where these zones are located. And so let's look at this for a moment here. So here's that root cap, the quiescent center right in through in here. And so here's where we're having the different zones taking place as far as cell division. Rapidly dividing cells of the root apical meristem segregate into 3 primary meristems. Zone of elongation, so most cells stop dividing but increase in length. So the primary meristems begin to differentiate into tissue systems. The phloem matures and the xylem starts to form. Again, know that both of them are present within the roots as well as present within the shoot system. So you see here as far as the zone of maturation, so the tissue systems complete their differentiation and begin to take on their specialized roles. Root hairs begin to form, right? So we talked about those as far as being extensions of the root itself. And you're seeing here as far as the different vascular systems present here as far as the xylem and the phloem. Okay, and you're seeing here as far as the root, primary roots and shoots, right? So whether it be the root system or the shoot system here, unified system of vascular pipelines. And again, we looked at the xylem and the phloem, and we're going to see as far as what's going on as far as the eudicots and the monocots there. So see the presentation as far as the vascular system is located as far as the monocots are concerned. But as we look at the eudicots or the dicots, you're seeing here it's different presentation as far as looking at the root is concerned. And you'll see also it's going to be unique as far as the stems are concerned. Okay. So here we have for the monocot root, and you're seeing here as far as the xylem, the phloem present, right, in this circular pattern present for the root, for the monocot, and then for the Eudicot, it's got this other different type of presentation as far as the phloem and the xylem, creating this cross type presentation. And more, and again, too, know this also that with the Eudicot there, we're seeing more centrally located. We're seeing here as far as this circular, this oval shaped presentation present within the root itself for the monocot. And here you're just seeing as far as the abilities for roots to actually progress, not only just distally and deep, but also laterally and such. So you're seeing here development of the lateral root growing out through the root epidermis. Okay. As far as those root hairs, so interesting, right? So these root hairs, they greatly increase the plant's absorptive surface. And so again, too, as we're looking at this here, so let's go, come back. Yeah, so if you look right here and such, and so as we look at this image here, can we see? So we have the roots here, right? But we also have these little, like these little hair-like projections coming off of the roots, and just again, increasing surface area, increasing the ability for the absorption of minerals and water from the substrate. And you'll see here each hair, slender tube with thin walls, made sticky, right? So not only are they just increasing the surface area, but they have this substance called pectin, right? Sticky substance, which soil particles will adhere to the wall of the root hairs, facilitating the uptake of water molecules and mineral ions from the soil. And so when you think of pectin, I don't know if anybody's done any kind of canning or anything like that, or made any jellies and such. Let's see here. No, it's right here. Here we go. Yeah. So pectin. So as far as jelly is concerned, and you can purchase this, right? So starch, right? Starch, it's a carbohydrate, essential for preserves like jellies and jams and such. So this is what pectin is. Combined with sugar and acid to help preserve gel when cool, as far as creating this jelly and jams and such. But this is what pectin is. And so it's really very important as far as what we use as far as food is concerned, and also a thickening agent as far as cooking also. Pectin. And again, coating the root hairs, allowing for their ability to better adhere to the soil and such, and aid in the absorption of water and minerals and such. So shoot systems. So we looked at the root systems, now look at the shoot systems as far as stem and leaves, right? And so what you're seeing here is that the functions here. So providing mechanical support, okay? Housing vascular tissue, containing modifications for the storage of water and food and nutrients, and buds in specific stem regions containing meristematic tissue, which would be the tissue that's rapidly dividing cells in order to allow for growth to take place, right? Giving rise to new cells of the shoot. So let's look here as far as nodes and internodes and terminal buds and lateral buds. And so what are we looking at here? But just looking at this image here just helps us to see. And you all have, let me ask you this. Let's stop for a moment and let's just see as far as, I want to bring everybody out for a moment here. So how many of you have done gardening? How many of you like to garden or like to grow plants in your home or outside and each spring and fall? Okay, so Kelly, what is it that you like about gardening? And what have you observed? And hey, Nathaniel, you're on board. Excellent, good. Yep, gardening is cool. So come on, someone say a little bit about gardening and such, and why do you like to grow things? Yeah, Kelly, all right, that's cool. I'd like to be able to watch something grow and care for it. And it is, there's this satisfaction that is achieved as a result of just looking at something and going, hey, I didn't kill it. It's growing. I'm able to, make sure it's out in the sun, or maybe certain plants don't like the sun as much, and indirect sunlight, and feed it, give it water and maybe some different types of plant nutrients and such that you're able to add to it. Spider plants, and I take to be, oh, cool, yeah, nice. And that's cool, Kelly, that you're able to then share your passion for growing and allow others to take the little babies and create new plants and such. That's awesome. Yeah, understood, Nathaniel, right? The smells are nice. The smell of, I'm going to read that one. I like how you put that there. The smells are nice. The smell of dirt and plants, kind of invigorating. It is really important to be able to get out there and to be able to get in the dirt and mess around a little bit with it. It's nice. Very good. Excellent. Very good. Thank you. Good stuff. All right. Yeah, so this image here, as far as the stem network and such, and seeing, so the plant's network here as far as these the stems and leaves and such, and so looking at and realizing that as far as this apical meristems, right, that are present, and really allowing for the growth of the plant to growing in height, okay, very important. And really this is the key important here aspect of growth, and it will actually send out hormones and such in order to inhibit as much lateral growth, right? And more of the really more growth, a more superior word. You'll see here as far as these buds and such that are present and allowing for new growth to take place there. Nodes, you'll see here, so nodes where here we have these stems coming off of the primary stem, and you'll see here the inner node is the space between each of these nodes of new growth. Let's see here. And here we have at this terminal bud, right at the apex of the stem. So stem growth here. So let's look at here as far as seeing how most growth in the stem length occurs directly below the apical meristem. And so that's what you're looking at right here. Okay. And here would be this lateral buds. So these are considered the lateral buds, right? But here's this apical meristems and the bud that's at the superior aspect of the primary stem. You'll see your terminal buds release a hormone that inhibits the growth of those lateral buds, right? So we call this apical dominance, meaning that so we want growth to take place more from superiorward and not as much lateral growth. Directs the plant's resources into growing up toward the light. See, because why would this be important? In order to then capture as much sunlight as possible in order to facilitate photosynthesis. And so is this going to be very important for the survival of the plant and the growth of the plant? Absolutely, right? The primary growth of a shoot begins in the shoot apical meristem, dome-shaped mass of cells. So just as we had in the case of, as far as the root cap and the quiescent center for this growth that would take place as far as the roots going from proximal to distal, deeper into the substrate, you know, we get again to as far as seeing here as far as the apical meristems. And so this growth going upward and superiorward towards the sunlight and towards the sun source and such, very important, towards the light. And here's just giving you that microscopic image of the apical meristem and such. Neat image there. So vascular tissues and such, right? So present within the shoot system, okay? Again, we've got these vascular systems, and depending upon whether it's eudicots or monocots, you're going to see a difference here as far as presentation, okay? So look at here as far as the eudicots. So eudicots here, the ground tissue outside the stele forms a cortex. The tissue inside is the pith. On monocots, the vascular bundles are dispersed throughout the ground tissue. So let's see here as far as you're seeing the vascular bundles. See how the vascular bundles are presented? Okay, here's that pith of the ground tissue and such. So much different in presentation. So you see here the vascularity, how it's presented in the stem of the eudicots. And the monocots, look at this here. Folks, you can see how the vascular network is spread throughout the stem, giving support. We're also going to see the difference between what's going on as far as lateral stems and as far as leaves are concerned for Eudicot and monocots in just a moment. Okay, but again, you should know, just the bottom line is that the presentation as far as for Eudicot and monocot, as far as their roots are concerned, or as far as their stems are concerned, what kind of presentation are you noting here as far as seeing the vascular network as well as the ground tissue, the supportive tissue and such? And so again, you're seeing here, here's what's taking place as far as the vascular network for the Eudicot and the monocot. You can see it's throughout the stem and not just in this oval shaped pattern surrounding the border of the stem for the Eudicot. Now, modifications and structures for stems, right? So we'll see here tubers, rhizomes, corms, stolons, meristematic tissue, right? So this is tissue that's tissue that will rapidly dividing cells and can produce new plants, right? We've all, I bet you we've done this as far as if you've done any type of vegetable gardening and such, and taken a potato that has its eyes and such, and you'll see that new plants can be produced as a result of planting those. See here as far as potato tuber, ginger, this crocus, corm is, you'll see here as far as for strawberries and such, the stolons. These are all the modified stem networks that can asexually reproduce new plants. Now, another type of modification would be thorns. And growing up as a kid, oh man, so we had in our yard, on the border of our yard, on one border of the yard that we played all our sports in and such, we had these thorn bushes that were present that were just, oh man, and we played touch football and you ended up getting pushed into the thorns and such. But look at what's going on here. Deter predation from those type of animals and such that would actually eat these bushes and such. So thorns are going to prevent that. It's interesting how certain animals have adapted to this also, and that even no matter thorns are present, they can still take care of and eat some of the vegetation that's present without being harmed. Fleshy water storing stems such as cacti have helped in order to sustain the plant during extended dry periods and in arid environment. And you're seeing here as far as cactus is concerned. Has anybody ever eaten cactus at all? I've never eaten cactus. I've never really lived in an environment that cactus was readily available, but I know that people will eat cacti and such, and certain types. Yeah, I don't know. It's not for me. You have. All right. So Aaron, what did it taste like? How would you describe it's actually good. Okay. So what could you maybe say it was analogous to, or something similar to, that we would recognize as far as food is concerned? Or maybe I can ask, like, how was it prepared? Was it fried? Was it steamed? Similar to tofu. Okay, soft and chewy. All right. And so maybe not as much of a flavor unless it like takes on the flavor of whatever you're cooking it within, or the spices that you're cooking it within. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, thank you, Aaron. That's cool. I appreciate that input there. And you'll see here as far as honey locust thorns, and ooh, those are some pretty nasty thorns, boy, I'll tell you. And really interesting, the presentations, and really on the you'll see here as far as the cactus too, also these thorns and such that are present. And some, smaller and some larger, and man, they can all not feel good when you get pinched by them. Leaves. So when we think of the plants, we think of that leaves are present in order to allow for increasing surface area in order for photosynthesis to occur, right? And so they contain structures that will allow for the chloroplasts that will allow for photosynthesis to take place. So exchange of gases and limit the loss of water by evaporation through those stomata, right? The guard cells that allow for the stomata to open and close, right? You'll see here the thin flattened blade provides a large surface area for absorbing sunlight and CO2, right? Those are entering in, and then water and oxygen are leaving via the stomata. Eudicot and monocots. So you'll see here the Eudicot, there's this petiole, right? That's connecting, attaches the leaf to a stem. Different, and I just pointed this out to you earlier there, the monocot, you'll see there, its base forms a sheath around the stem. So let's take a look at this here. And you probably just, you've seen this, but realizing that, okay, so the monocot here, look at this. See how the leaf here forms a sheath around the stem. Whereas for the Eudicot here, we've got this petiole, this little tinier stem connecting the leaf to the primary stem, right? Or the lateral stems, okay? And then modifications for the leaves as far as simple and compounds. So a simple leaf, single blade. When we think of histology and such, as far as human histology, we're thinking of epithelial tissue, the covering and lining type tissue. Simple epithelial tissue, one layer. Compound, we're thinking of, or stratified, we're thinking of multiple. So compound, we're thinking of what? More than. So divided into smaller leaflets. So let's take a look here. So here we have, and so here's one blade. The blade can have different appearance, but it's still one blade, one continuous blade, okay? As far as the Eudicot, simple. Compound, then we're looking at these leaflets, right? We're looking at these leaflets here, okay? Present within the compound types of leaf presentation. Now, adaptation of leaves and such. And so you'll see here, as far as these cactus spines, the tendrils of a sweet pea, which is pretty cool stuff, and how they're able to hook onto and stabilize themselves as far as the plant is concerned. How about, has anybody ever had any, I've never grown or had a Venus flytrap. Has anybody ever, I've seen video, to be honest. I've watched video on YouTube of people who have them and such. You had one. Christian, was it hard to grow? Was it a hardy plant, or was it kind of not so easy to grow? It was okay, all right. And so not too bad then. It was, yeah, all right, interesting. Just missed it with water. All right, interesting. And did you ever, so I have to ask, like, did you ever try and, did you ever see it actually have a fly within or something, or some type of insect within, or provide it with, catch a fly and throw it in there? It's a bit slower than people think when catching flies. Understood. Yeah, yeah. And you know what, there are some pretty interesting video if you want to look on YouTube regarding how they're able to do what they do and such. And yeah, check it out. But thank you, Christian. I appreciate that input. Thanks very much. All right, and so you're seeing here, as far as, again, different types of adaptation here. And so leaf growth and structure. Okay, so how do they know when to snap? Yeah, because and I don't know the mechanism, to be honest, Pilar. I'm sorry. Again, I've watched some video and such, but as far as the specific mechanism and what triggers the actual closure and such, okay, little fibers on the inside of the mouth, so to speak. Okay, that when triggered somehow by the presence of the fly, then enable the closure, I would imagine. Yeah, the fly has to touch them. Understood. Yes, and that would make sense in order for then the triggering the mechanism to actually close, and then allow for then enzymes to take place, to be released in order to then digest the fly itself. Quite remarkable. Let's see here, as far as so tissue layers regarding leaves and such. So you'll have the upper epidermis. This is the cuticle. That's that waxy portion. So when you touch a leaf, that's what you're feeling, that the cuticle there, the upper epidermis. The mesophyll, this is what contains, this is the within the, right deep to the epidermis. And really know that there's two layers present of the mesophyll, and that these chloroplasts, these structures present that allow for photosynthesis to occur, present within the mesophyll. You need to know that. The lower epidermis, this is where we have the stomata, right? So the underlying under surface of the leaf, this is where the stomata will be placed and allow for then, as a result of those guard cells opening, closing, allowing for CO2 to enter, allowing for then water vapor and oxygen to leave the plant. Okay? So you should know the three tissues of the leaf. And you'll see that also, and I'm sure you noticed this as you were looking at it. Sorry. Here we go. And as you're looking at these images here, what are you seeing? But you're seeing these veins present, are you not? So not only are you seeing that, yeah, okay, so here's a blade and it has its different presentation, right? And here are these leaflets that are having these veins present and these different presentations, but also realizing that there's these vein patterns and such, and so branching for Eudicot and Monocot parallel veins. Again, and so you would do well to create going through this chapter as far as notes are concerned, having Eudicot and Monocot as far as the different presentations. But remember that I also provided for you all, let's see here. Here we go. Reviewing this image right here. And this gives you quite an interesting thing as far as the stems and the roots and the veins are concerned, as far as monocots and dicots and different flowers and such. So tried to provide that for you all there, and as far as also giving you some more information here. This was posted in Documents and Resources. Okay. You'll see here in temperate regions, many angiosperms, those are flower-producing type plants, are deciduous. So they shed their leaves annually. And hormones are being released in order to cause the leaves to fall when it comes time for autumn, for fall. Okay. Others can appear evergreen because the leaves do not all drop at the same time, but they aren't, because those would be considered then the gymnosperms, as far as the evergreens are concerned, the pine type trees. And this is just giving you images and just wanting you to see as far as the epidermis. And so looking at the different layers as far as the lower epidermis, and then, I'm sorry, the mesophyll region right here in between, okay? And you're also seeing the vascularity being present as far as the xylem and the phloem, and the tissues that are comprising those, allowing for those tubes to allow for transport of material. Now, secondary growth, right? So wood and bark are considered secondary growth and add to the girth, add to the diameter as far as the plant is concerned, okay? So you'll see here as far as we're looking at and seeing layers as far as the primary and secondary growth is concerned. Now look here as far as the terms heartwood and sapwood, okay? And so heartwood, this is dry type wood. There's no longer transportation of water and solutes. The xylem, as far as the movement of water and such, clogged with oils, gums, and tannins. So it's considered dry, not transporting water and solutes. Sapwood, on the other hand, right, it's considered wet because it has a functioning xylem and phloem. And so let's take a look here as far as seeing where we have the heartwood and the sapwood. So again, the sapwood is really considered functioning vascularity, whereas the heartwood does not have this functioning vascularity. Okay. As far as tree rings are concerned, so this is giving you a very an understanding of how when you see a tree that has been cut down and you look at all the rings and such and wonder, well, does each ring represent a year of growth? Well, you know, that's not entirely true. Okay. Yes, that can help you as far as understanding growth, but realizing that it's a combination of two rings. So take a look here for a moment. So larger diameter cells are produced in the spring, springwood. Smaller diameter cells are produced in the summer, considered summerwood. Now, alternating light and dark bands of spring and summerwood, right, represent the annual growth layers, so the tree rings themselves. So really, as you're looking at this here, right, so you would think, okay, so this would be, we would think 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years, but that's not the case, folks. That as you're seeing these alternations, right, realizing that it's the light and the dark create 1 year of growth. Okay, so that can be a misconception for people when they're thinking about how they're counting the rings and such. So again, the spring wood, it's larger as far as the ring is concerned. The summer would be smaller diameter, so we have the spring and the summer wood. And so both of those light and dark bands, right, together combine form one layer, 1 year of growth. So they're 2 layers, but 1 year of growth, annual growth. And so that's what you're seeing here as far as just represented here. Okay, the light and the dark, the light and the dark, that creates 1 year of growth. And I'm not going to read this to you all, but you can review that and look at that. You'll see here that this is important as far as adaptation. So we realize that as far as for species to continue on, right, that there needs to be some type of adaptation taking place. Now, know that, right, plants with masses of leaves supported by taller, stronger stems, what's going to happen to them? What are they going to be able to do? Well, they're going to be able to intercept more light energy from the sun. They're going to be able to have more surface area for this. And so they are going to grow healthy and strong, and they will reproduce, right? With more energy for photosynthesis, they can increase their root and shoot systems, right? Above the ground and below the ground. They're better able to acquire resources, right? Above and below the ground. And then they in turn will then reproduce more successfully. Right? So for both primary and secondary growth, the development of these new tissues and organs maintains a balance between above the ground and below the ground, the shoot system and the root system there. Okay, so adaptation key for survival. Wouldn't you say that? Absolutely, that's true. All right, folks, so that's it for